This is Matt on Poke Checking Cards, and tonight is episode 3 of our Instagram Collectors interview series. I've had a lot of fun doing this already with Aaron and with Jimmy, kind of getting to know the backstory of a hockey collector and where everything started. The guys that you see on Instagram that are, quite active amongst the community. Those are the people that I'm targeting. And I couldn't think of anybody better when I think of the word community than a fellow teacher and a Jerome McGillna super collector. Many of you know him. His name is Al, and he's here joining us to tell us his story. How's it going, Al?
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate the invite to come on.
Great. I'm glad that you were finally able to get on here. I know that we talked about having you on a roundtable a couple of times, and that's kind of a different format. I thought this would be a little more easygoing and give you a chance to just tell your story to a lot of people that have known of you or know you through Instagram. But when I first saw your account on there, one of the first things that stood out to me is just how you were all about storytelling, and I knew there was something there. And then I come to find out that you were also a teacher, and sometimes you see those things, you hear them, you're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense, But I guess my first question is this, being that we have that teacher connection, how does a teacher get into collecting hockey cards? Did it start before you became a teacher and then go from your childhood all the way up, or did it start later on?
I guess it started after I became a teacher. I'm what they call an after degree student. So I went to university. I got a history degree first because I liked history, and then realized I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Mm-hmm. So went back to school again and got my Bachelor of Education. I started looking at hockey cards probably in the late 80s, about 1988 probably. Mm-hmm. At that point, they used to have shows at the community centers. So okay. I would go there, and I was probably buying mostly cards from the 80s. I didn't really go back into the 70s too much at that time. So it unless maybe a few bossy cards or something like that, but mm-hmm. basically from the 80s. And then I started, of course, there was no eBay at that time.
Right.
So I started buying stuff through the mail order. And I was looking through one of my old boxes today, and I found a price list from 1992 from Lincoln Heights Coin and Stamp Shop.
Wow.
So as you can tell from the title, they're not a card, basically a card shop, mm-hmm. but they did sell cards. And so on the back, this is what they had. They had Aardvark's Card Park up in the corner up here. That was the name of the section they used. And this first column right here is hockey cards. That was it at that time. So there weren't a lot of places to find them. And just some of the sample prices, I guess I could tell you. Vintage singles, Bobby Orr, 1967-68 tops, books at $300, our price $75 for a very good version. Yeah. Gordie Howe, 68-69 OPC, books at $120, their price $99. Bobby Hull, 68-69 OPC, book 65, price $40. I mean, those were the days, right?
I mean, I am kind of curious too, like you kind of saw collecting in the 80s and through the early 90s, you saw when Upper Deck first came onto the scene. And I always find it interesting to hear what hockey collectors thought of when Upper Deck came onto the scene and that became part of your collecting repertoire. I mean, was that a game changer for you when they introduced that first set in 1991?
Yes. I actually have some binders. I left them upstairs, but I've got binders full of cards from that period. I didn't buy a ton of boxes, but enough just to get a good sampling of things. I think it hit more for me when companies like Bowman came in and even like ProSet.
Right, of course.
Everybody's a fan, but it was new and exciting at that time. So,
right. That's the first memory of hockey collecting that I had. I went from Upper Deck and then to ProSet. And I just remember that borderless design, and I remember the packs being cheap. And I feel like a lot of us that collected in those early 90s, like those two sets and even O-Pee-Chee. I remember that name just like being ingrained in my head because it was so unique. But you grew up in Canada and you live there still, correct? Which is,
yes.
I know collecting hockey cards in Canada as opposed to living in Washington where I live, that's got to be a completely different scene. I mean, I imagine everybody pretty much collected hockey and there wasn't a whole lot of baseball and basketball and football being collected, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching sports on TV for over 50 years now, and I used to watch a lot of baseball and football, and I still do. But for me, hockey was always the main sport. It was just more exciting. I liked the idea that they had with the playoffs going so much longer and really revving up that excitement.
Right.
So for me, there was no second guessing. It was going to be hockey.
Totally. Well, hockey. Was it always Calgary too? I mean, was this your hometown in Calgary or okay? So I guess it was destined to be, right?
Well, true enough, except, there are certain players that I like as well, besides Iginla. So I collect Yzerman as well. And in the early days with, if we move forward, I guess, to eBay in 99, I joined in July of 99. I used to, in those days, in the early days, you could get group sets of certain players. There was a seller in British Columbia. Card Dog Sync was the name that he used on eBay. And he would have sets of like 15, 20, 25 cards of one player. And
oh, wow.
You could get it at a really decent price. You'd be paying, like 20 cents a card or something like that.
Oh,
and it was a great way to build up a collection that way.
Absolutely. Well, and I think about the early Flames days, and my dad used to buy me highlight VHS tapes, hockey highlights, and they'd have all the best plays. And I mean, I bet you can guess what it is. The first Flames highlight from the early 90s is Theo Fleury. I mean, the celebration across the ice on his knees, on his back, like ever since I saw that, I could see that he would be a player if I lived in Calgary or even in Canada, that I would just latch onto just with his enthusiasm and, the passion that he played and how good he was too. Was that a guy that you also started collecting a little bit, or was it just like looking for the better players that you noticed?
Not really. I mean, I actually took a break from collecting from 92 to 96, probably 96, 97.
Okay.
I think one of the things that kind of turned me off a little bit was with the mail order stuff, O-Pee-Chee Premier. You remember how exciting that was when it first came out, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
91, 92, I think was the first year.
I think you're right.
Or 91, 92, something like that.
Early 90s, yeah.
But I think a box, and then my memory's a little foggy on this, but I think a box at that time started around $45, if I'm not wrong. And then it went up to like $160 or something like that. And that kind of turned me off to the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's different these days with eBay as opposed to buying through the mail back then. It was a lot more effort back then to do it. So I just took that break. And then and of course, Fleury was in his prime back around that time, right? So
right.
I got back into it almost by accident. My wife and I have two sons. They're both in their 30s now. But they were in a bowling league. And this bowling league was in a shopping mall, local shopping mall here. And there happened to be a sports card store there called Collector's Corner. So I don't know if you've ever been to bowling leagues, but it's like a 3-hour sit down while you're watching the kids play, right? So I was looking around for other things to do every once in a while. And I wandered down the mall and I discovered this store. So I would go in and chat with the owner, and that's where I started buying some more boxes again. Nice. A lot of them, though, were Pacific more so at that time.
Great choice.
Now.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, and is that, going into our next question, is that where you decided that Jarome Iginla was going to be the player that you collected? I mean, that's right around his rookie year, if I remember, the late 90s
97.
there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. and obviously he's in Calgary, and he was an up and coming star, and really came into his own. Like probably the early 2000s when he really was playing at the top of his game, right? If I remember
Yes.
correctly.
Yeah, there was a couple of years there he won the Rocket Richard Trophy, and I think his best year he got 96 points.
Oh wow!
I think it was like 2003 or something. But anyways, yeah. I mean, I've always been a hometown fan. I like the hometown teams. So as soon as the Flames arrived here back in 1980, I became a fan. Before that, I started watching hockey way back in the late 60s. I was a Habs fan. If you asked me some of the Habs players, I could probably tell you quite a few, but ask me some Toronto players, I wouldn't know as many. I didn't watch them as much.
That's
I
funny.
didn't enjoy their games as much. So yeah, when Jerome arrived on the scene, it was before eBay still, because that was in '99. I know one of your questions was, do you remember your first Jerome McGinley card?
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
Oh wow.
It might have been in one of the boxes that I bought, and he was just in that box. I didn't probably start hardcore collecting of him till, I'm going to say, about 2001, 2002.
Okay. And where did that decision come from? Because I always find it interesting the tie to why we collect certain players. You know, I've spoken about why I collect Fleury a few times, Jocelyn Thibault, and so forth. What made you, other than the obvious, right? Plays for Calgary, he's their best player. I think that's, most people would probably think that, but was there any other personal type of connection or something you saw in the way that he played, the way that he was off the ice, that drew you to him as a player?
Oh, definitely. For me, it wasn't about the stats. You know what? In the early 2000s, I was probably collecting more Chuck Kobasu cards than McGinley cards. And Jordan Leopold was another one that
I've heard of him.
Dove into. And then of course they left, right? But for me, it's always been, and I mentioned this on the website that I have, it's all about his personality and the way he plays the game. He's heart and soul guy on the ice every night, born leader, inspiring to his teammates. And you and I know as elementary teachers, in our classrooms, we try and teach the kids the right way to do things. And we look for role models to show them, right? Well, he's a perfect example of a great role model for anybody growing up. I was looking around on Wikipedia yesterday, and I found some stats here, and it says, for example, he started by donating $1,000 per goal to kids sport. Again,
that's great.
Elementary teachers, you and I know how important kids sport would be to the students, right?
Absolutely.
And then it went up to $2,000 per goal in 2005. And it says between 2000 and 2013, he donated more than $700,000 to that charity.
That's incredible.
Right?
That's incredible.
It's not, I mean, I'm not saying that other athletes just do lip service. They're in there too. But for me, to see stuff like that, and then there's the story of the 2002 Olympic Games in Salt Lake. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, let's hear this one. No, okay. I haven't heard the story.
So apparently he was out for dinner, and there was some fans from Calgary sitting at a nearby table, and he struck up a conversation with them. There was 4 of them, and he found out through the conversation that they were there for the Olympic Games, but they were sleeping in their car. They didn't have hotel rooms. So he went and he booked hotel rooms at his expense for those 4.
That is.
I mean, that speaks to the character that he is, right?
Right. Selfless, though, right? Like, we're always looking to teach people, students who become adults, to be selfless people, right? To think of others first before themselves. And that I love hearing stories like that, because now every time I get an McGinley card, whether it's, out of a box or I find it at a shop or something, I like having that kind of a connection to a player where you can look to them as a role model for students or just for people like us. I think that's also there too.
The other thing you can look at, if you look on YouTube and do a search for McGinley, The Shift. It's called The Shift. It actually has a name.
Okay.
And it's about overtime in one of the Stanley Cup final games in 2004.
Okay.
So it's after he's already played an entire game. But on this shift, he loses his helmet. He's all over the ice. And he did the assist on the winning goal.
Wow.
But it's just a testament to how hard he played the game. Never give up. Just all in all the time.
Awesome. I love hearing those reasons. That's that's perfect. I think too, when I look at players, like you said, as a teacher, when I'm in my classroom, I think of the role model side of things. They know I love sports. So, maybe not last year, but most years, Russell Wilson was always somebody that I talked about because I like that even when he threw the worst pass in the history of Super Bowl ever, he went up on the stand and he answered those questions. Not like Cam Newton, who just ran off because he was crying about it or whatever, but guy, Stephen Curry in his early years and so forth, and Marc-Andre Fleury. I talk about these guys in my classroom because of the role models that they are. And so, yeah, love that connection among other things for sure. So don't remember the first card that you pulled of him. That's okay. No. I don't think a lot of people could say that they do, but think of, you've got a lot of Agilma stuff. I know the Beyond cards, right? I know everybody knows that the focus is on cards. That's what we do on Instagram, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But are there any other things of his that you wanted to show off and talk about a little bit?
Sure. I've got some things here on my desk, and then I did send you some pictures too that we could share.
Yeah, let's start with the stuff on your desk, and then I'll pull up those pictures you sent me.
Okay. So he's been in the league for so long and had so many milestones, but there's still those special ones that really stick out, right? Mm-hmm. So this is one of them that I have. This is a ticket from the arena, the game where he scored his 1,000th point.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, one of the things that's important for me in the collecting world, and you and I both experience this on Instagram now too, but also on Hobby Insider, Sports Card Forum, Twitter, Facebook. There's so many platforms now, but this card came to me from a personal connection I made at trading night locally here at Maple Leaf Sports. So Brett Miles, who's on Instagram as @BrettMilesCreative, he made this for me. I got the ticket actually came from somebody on Hobby Insider and sent it to me for free. Didn't want anything for it. Said, hey, you'll enjoy it a lot more than I will. So he sent it to me. Ran into Brett at one of the trading nights, and we started talking. I said, hey, I've got this ticket. Do you have any ideas? And he was doing custom cards at that time. And he says, well, you know what? Maybe leave it with me, and I'll come up with an idea. So here's the front of it. And then on the back, which I really love, he's got the game. There we go.
Oh,
game
that's
stats
awesome.
and all kinds of personal information there. And then the really cool thing, which I'll never change this, but down right there, you can see that little box.
Yeah.
So apparently he created this so that I could open it and take the ticket out if I ever wanted to and put it somewhere else. So it's not permanent.
Oh, okay.
Right?
That's awesome.
Brilliant. I'll never take it out.
Right. I was going to say that's never going anywhere.
This is the one.
Okay.
And then same deal with his 600th goal. So apologies to Aaron, crease collector. Iggy scored his 600th goal against Enroth.
Oh, no. That's a funny connection.
So here's the ticket, again, from that game that he scored the goal in. But what I've done with this, you can see this is a little different. This one I've presented digitally now. So I've talked to you privately about Book Creator.
Yep.
Is one of the tools that I use to present my cards or preserve my cards as memories for me. Mm-hmm. So I did this, and the beauty of doing it digitally is that I can do like 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever I want, different versions for this.
Right.
I can change little things. And that's what I did about 5 versions, I think. I presented it on Hobby Insider, and I asked for opinions. And I said, what would you guys like to see? How should I change this? And I got some great ideas, did some changes, and ended up with a final copy that I really liked.
Well, we're definitely gonna touch on the Book Creator connection there too, because a lot of people know. I mean, not just teachers, obviously, but teachers are very creative and adaptive people. And so book creator definitely, as a collector, I didn't even think about that as a collector. So I'm really excited to dive into that a little bit here. So would you like me to share a couple of things that you sent me on Instagram here? Just
Yeah,
for
I've got
people to see?
one more thing I
Oh,
want to share here.
yeah.
This is a puck. I got this off of eBay. So this is from Game 4 of the 2004 Stanley Cup playoffs,
Oh, wow.
and it is signed by Jerome on the front.
Wow,
Okay.
that is really. I like the gold ink too. I love that hockey is one of the only sports that uses that different ink a lot more.
Yeah, and it's got the PSA thing, and it's got the COA with it and everything. So I know it's official. So.
Perfect. Do you have a lot of that kind of stuff displayed in the office?
I'm not into equipment and jerseys and stuff. I own one jersey, which I actually won in a contest.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
No, I don't do that.
Yeah, I'd rather spend my money on the cards too. So I'm with you there. Which picture would you like to would you like me to display for you first here on the messages that you sent me? I'm having to go back through the tech support stuff that we sent to each other. So
okay, why don't we do the Matthew Stewart print, which would be the 600th goal on Enroth?
Okay, here we go. There's 500. Here we go. There it is. I believe this is it right here. I'm looking at the black and white version with the black frame, and then I've got I'll do my share screen, and you can pull this up for us here. So we'll go here. Okay, so can you see this? Okay, so we've got the black and white frame.
The second one down.
Here we go.
That one. Yeah. So this one is by an artist called Matthew Stewart, and he's on Instagram as Matthew Stewart Illustrations, I believe.
Okay.
I made a connection with him at one of the local shows. So the fellow Marcel Eden does the summit shows in Edmonton. He also does some local shows, smaller shows in Calgary. And this would have been at the end of October in 2018. So Matt and I discussed this for a little bit at the show, and then we emailed each other back and forth with ideas. I wanted it to be a tribute to his 600th goal, but at the same time, I don't know if you remember his 600th goal. It was one of those excuse me goals.
I have not seen it.
Oh, it went in off the skate of Jake Muzzin. So he was passing the puck to the front of the net. It hit Muzzin's skate and went in the net.
Those are impossible for goalies. I have lots of sympathy for them.
So I said to Matt, I said, you know what? Let's jazz this up a little bit. How about if we do it like I would have imagined it, or I would have liked it to have happened, right? So this is a fantasy shot. It never happened like this, but it's him on a breakaway shooting on Enroth. So
nice. I like the creativity. I like that you changed it up a bit, because I think some people, the purists might say, well, that's not how it happened. But the fact that you're finding a way to get a little bit more joy out of it makes it even better.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Any of these other ones you'd like to take a look at?
We can go to the top one right now if you want.
All right, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to open this in a new tab, and I'm going to zoom in. That's not. Let me see if I can get this to. I want to make sure it's big enough so I'm doing justice to. There we go. That's better. Okay. So let's do this here. All right, that's a bit better, huh?
Okay, sure, yeah. So this print is done in pencil, and it's done by a very good friend of mine, Jaden Froese, who is what is his name on Instagram here? I'll have to look that up. I don't remember no, I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, he's also an Iginla collector, and he's probably got a couple of thousand Iginla cards as well. So we've connected that way, and we'll trade cards back and forth, and we talk a fair bit on different platforms. But he's a fantastic artist.
There's a lot going on here. I like it. There's just so many elements.
So this is based on something called sketchnoting. Now, I first came across sketchnoting in a staff meeting at my school back in about 2013. And it was a video by Sir Ken Robinson. And it was talking about paradigms in education or something, but it was sketching out the ideas as he was talking about it. And I just found it fascinating. So what Jaden and I did, this took about a year and a half actually to come to fruition. We just brainstormed for all the big important things that were going on in Iginla's career. And I said to him, we'll tone it down. I don't want to overwhelm everybody with this.
Right.
And the other thing I said too was, we looked at different styles, because sketchnoting isn't just one style. There's different ones. I didn't want it to be linear. I didn't want it to be where, okay, here's point A, you start here and you go to point Z over here and then you're done. No, I wanted it where people could just look everywhere at once and pick whatever was their favorite and just go with it. So it's got, starting with his draft year, it's got his awards, it's got his stats, and all the different jerseys. We talked about that too. We were saying, well, should we put color on it? And Jaden and I agreed with him. I said, you know what? I think it looks better all the same, all as one. Right? And this thing is actually quite big. I had it framed at one of the local stores here, Michael's. But it's about 26 inches across and about 20 inches up and down.
Oh, so it's much, much bigger than I thought. I thought this was maybe 16 by 20. Wow.
No, this is on a wall in my other den upstairs there. So
okay, this is really, really neat. And one thing that I don't know if you'll be in agreement with me on this one, but I have been more fascinated with the art side of hockey than I ever have when I was collecting baseball. I mean, obviously with the goalies, it's art on their heads all the time, but Puckheads, Michael, he did those 4 pieces for me. And just, I was so fascinated by the different options. There's endless possibilities when it comes to art in hockey, because the players themselves are artistic in the way they play and the way that they're dressed. And so, yeah, this kind of encompasses all of that. And you've got me thinking about what would something like this look for Marc-Andre Fleury when his career is all done, And so, I love it. I can't focus on one thing for more than a few seconds, and I want to go look at something else. And of course, he played for the Penguins for a little bit there too. So I'm quite happy about that. Great. Yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, do you feel like these mean just as much to you, if not more, than the cards at times?
I think so. The cards are nice and everything, and I do enjoy putting the little mini sets together and stuff. But for me, this one, I've got it in a place where I go in that room just about every day, and I always, as I'm working away at my desk up there, I'll always take a look over and look at it and focus on a different spot and just refresh my memory about what's going on. And
yeah. No, that's excellent. No, I love it. I'm so glad that I was able to hear more about this, because when you sent me some of these pictures, I know we love to get to everything. I can share that last one there at the very end. I think this picture would be a good one to finish it off, actually. But just to see all these different things that you've accumulated over the years for this one player is pretty special. So love it. Well, we're talking about technology a little bit. Let's move on to the website and then on to Instagram after that. When I had Aaron on, he talked about his website, and I think we've all had aspirations to put a collection there. But you were mentioning how you like having a place you can go and always look at your collection rather than pulling the cards out every single day to look through all of them. And was that the inspiration for doing the website to begin with? Like, before we pull it up on the screen here, where did you come up with the idea of saying, you know what, this is the perfect way to display my collection, tell the stories I want to tell, and so forth?
Well, I've always been a visual learner more so. I don't enjoy looking at the checklist so much. I'd rather look at the cards in different ways.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
And one of the driving forces too was going to shows. I didn't want to carry a binder with me with checklists and looking up and down pages and say, oh, do I have this? Do I have that? Because I've got so many now, it makes it harder to keep track. So with Weebly, what I can do is I'll separate them by series and then by year. And with my phone now, because I've got iPhone 10, so when I go to a show now, I can just pull Weebly up, and if somebody's got, let's say, the cup from 07, 08, and it's a card out of 5 or something, I just go to my site and I look and I say, oh, yep, there it is. I got one already. Thanks. So that
Oh,
was
nice.
probably one of the main things. The other thing is I just like looking at them, right? And
Right.
like you said, I've got lots of boxes. I just hate unpiling and repiling boxes.
That is kind of funny too, because that right there could be a debate in itself. I used to have like the majority of my baseball cards displayed, and then I got tired of always looking at the same setup, and I was like, I'll just put them away because then it's exciting to pull them out of the box. But for you to do the website so you can kind of have them stored away safely all the time is great. Now, other than displaying the cards, before I pull this up here, did you have kind of a big game plan in your head about where it was going to go beyond just the cards? Or did you say, we're going to start with the cards and then we'll see what other ideas come up after that?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any big plans.
Okay.
I guess the only other thing that's on the site that's a little bit different is like the book creator section, because that came about because of education.
Right.
And so it's just another way for me to enjoy the cards, but it's more specific. So it's mainly the sets that I build that I do that with. And that way I can always look and see, if I see a card on eBay and I'm thinking, okay, do I have that whole set or not? I just go to that one spot and I can look at the sets and say, okay, I must not have that yet. And then I can double check it in my checklist, right, to make sure.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, that's great to hear too, because most people, like to check like a Beckett collection that they have, or I use Trading Card Database to see if I have a card or something, like, because Tebow's got 100 Pacific Parallels that I have still not seen. And I'm like, wait, do I have that? But to go there visually and say, well, if it's not on the site, I don't have it,
Yeah.
That's
Sorry, I will mention as well, I do use Sports Card Forum Inventory Manager,
okay.
but I just don't find it as user-friendly on a phone. So I don't try using it at a show, but I love it for at home, and you can download images there as well. So that kind of, it gives me my benchmark too for certain years, what I still need and where I'm going.
Excellent. Well, it's good to give people other ideas too, because what works for one might not work for the other, as we know in the classroom, right? You got 20 kids and half of them like using this and 5 like using that and 5 like using that. So got to have lots of options. Well, let me bring the website up here. And before we really go dive deep into the website, what's up with the name you got here at the top?
Uhtred the Viking.
Yeah. I'm curious.
Okay. So like I mentioned at the beginning, I've got a history degree. I love history. And my favorite time period is probably medieval history and the Dark Ages before that. So my favorite author is Bernard Cornwell. And he does a series called, I think they used to call it the Saxon series, but now I think everybody knows it by The Last Kingdom. There's 13 books in the series, and I think I've probably read all of the books at least 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And now on Netflix, there's also a series that's gone 4 seasons called The Last Kingdom. And I just love that stuff. So that's where I got it from. Uhtred is the main character in his books. I put the Viking there because he was adopted after a battle. His father died in battle. He was adopted by Ragnar the Elder and sort of grew up as a Viking, even though he left that life behind later. I just liked it. It was different.
Well, that makes me inspired to come up with a more creative name, because I was just going to do the Burroughs PC or the Burroughs Collection. I think I can do better than that. So thanks for the motivation. That's what the teacher and you is doing great. So here we got the beginning, the homepage, how you kind of have it all set up. I love that, I like this. I'm not really sure when I bought my first journal. I did not read that before I came up with the question. I do want to preface that. But the idea here is to just kind of give people the story behind your collecting on the homepage. And then you've got your different kind of sections for what's going on, kind of a preview of what's to come on the whole site. Was that the idea? Yes. On the front here?
Yeah. And also I wanted to do a shout out to all my friends and all the people that have helped me over the years. I did mention that in the text up above there, that I wouldn't have been able to go even half as far as I did without, lots of good friends.
That's what it's about in this hobby, though, right? None of our collections would be where they're at without those type of people, our friends, for sure. So I'm just going to give people a little bit of a preview. I mean, we could spend 2-3 hours talking about this site here. Let's go to, we've spoken about Book Creator a few times. You wanted to do the Book Creator to organize your different sets, like visually to organize your sets, or was there more that you wanted to do beyond that?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I just really enjoyed using Book Creator. It was something I probably started in about 2013 or 14, I think is when it first came out.
Okay.
So, and I retired in 2016, so I only got to use it in school for a couple of years. But no, I just found it so flexible and so easy to do things. So, like for stuff like that one that you're showing right there, Paint, I don't remember. I've got 2 computers at home. One has Paint 3D and the other one doesn't. So all I did was I took pictures. I found pictures of the players and then put a filter onto it. I wanted it to look like an old film strip.
Love it.
So,
love it.
Yeah. And there's that ticket I was talking about that I showed you earlier.
Yep, there it is. Yep.
One of the versions.
And I do have to say too that I want to point out to everybody, as somebody who's used Book Creator, this right here takes a lot of work. You don't just slap these photos in here. I mean, you had to put these little film strip things and get them spaced out properly. You had to, get these centered and everything. I mean, this is a lot of copying and pasting and moving things around and resizing. And I just got to commend you, because as I was going through and looking through some of these, I'm like, man, that's hours and hours and hours of work to get all of these things. I think there was one with this one right here with the puck. Those were just
Can you
impressive.
Just go back up to that last one before though? Yeah, this one up here. So remember how I had said I put it on Hobby Insider? That was one of the suggestions that came up. People want, because I think one of the first ones I had the arena in it, which I wasn't crazy about, but I just thought, well, I'll try it. But that card right there, somebody suggested that, and then a couple of other people jumped and said, yeah, that'd be awesome. Have you got that card? Put that card. And luckily I had one. So I just took a scan of it and plopped it right in there. Yeah.
That's great. And it looks like this could be, like, if this could be framed and the actual card would be in there. And it's very, very creative. You're the first person that I've seen to use Book Creator in a collection, way, or as far as to showcase a player that they like. But it makes perfect sense. I mean, as soon as you said it, I remember there was like maybe 20 seconds from like, wait, how would you do that? And then it just like clicked. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So yeah, I definitely love that you've, used technology in this way. And you've got the cards in here too. Like, I like that you've got in all of these different years.
Rocket Richard, right?
Yeah.
That was the Rocket Richard trophy. So I thought, well, what better than to put the Rocket Richard card in there too? Yeah.
That is something else.
And, stuff like that too. When I created that, it's a benefit to me too, because I did a lot of research with that, because it's got home games and away games. I think that's the one, right? Not the one above.
Right. So the blue is away and the red is home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I never would have even thought of looking at that otherwise. So. Right.
No, this is a great way. It when I looked at these, I do want to say it reminded me of what are these called? Oh, they're not pictographs, obviously, but there's some kind of a chart using pictures. And you make it on a PDF or whatever, but you can blow it way up and you can go all over, and there's different charts all over the place. Different visuals. The name is escaping me at the moment, but I remember learning how to make those a long time ago, and I was like, this kind of reminds me of that. But other than using Book Creator, I mean, again, everybody should go check out Al's site. I mean, it's I'll link it in the YouTube description. Definitely got to go check this out. Let's take a look at some of the cards here. Now, me, a guy that collects Fleury, I have definitely got into the Cup. So if you don't mind,
sure.
I would love to show how you have your cards organized. What year of the Cup would you like me to go to?
Probably 07, 08.
07, 08. Okay.
That was
So
a heavy year for collecting 708.
I remember I've looked through a few of these pages and I've just been like, wow, he's able to find them all. So before I scroll down here, is there an order on which you do them? Is it alphabetically? You know, how have you decided to have everything organized on all these pages?
In general, I sort of start from the most common and go towards the rarest.
Okay.
So even like across the top there, that's how that would work.
Okay, great. So you got these, and then we've got your 101s, your printing plates, which are very tough to track down. This one is just incredible. I love that little detail around the outside of the cup that they use for this 101. And then the cup enshrinements, I've always felt like that set has always been top notch for them because of the amount of foil that they put on that card. Wow. You got Lanny and Jerome on this one. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's always a bonus when you get Lanny on a card.
I mean, that stash, it speaks for itself, right? Like, I don't think anybody could go there. Wow, look at all these. He was in everything this year. Look at this.
There were some years it was a little tough, especially series like Artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
There was one year I remember there were 64 Ginla cards in Artifacts one year, and there was a couple other years it was above 50. So
that's pretty, and to be able to find all of them too. I mean, I guess this would be a great time to follow up with this question. I mean, what avenues have you? I mean, are you connecting on all of the different social media platforms to try to track these down? Because as we know, eBay is an amazing place to find cards. The majority of the cards you're looking for, especially on release day, release week, release month, a lot of those start to show up. But do you have your other different avenues and connections? Is that how you've been able to obtain so many unique cards?
I do, yeah. Well, and it's not just the platforms either. It's the connections with the people. So, like I've mentioned Jaden, and there's a couple of other people on Hobby Insider. And if a big card would come along, they would message me and say, hey, a friend of mine just pulled this. You have an interest in this? Or some of them would be the seller directly. Some of the big guys from down east that would come out to the shows out west. I knew them on Hobby Insider. And if they pulled a great card, they might approach me and say, hey, are you interested in this? I'll give you first chance at it. Right.
Great.
But yeah, to answer the first part, I'm all over now. I held back as long as I could off of Facebook. I didn't really want to dive into that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But last year I finally joined because there's a few local sellers or a few local collectors that I've become friends with since that are on there too. So I'm in about 6 or 7 different groups on Facebook now.
Right.
Twitter I've been on since 2011. Again, that was through school. Our principal and VP at a staff meeting one night said, hey, staff, we're going to offer you training for Twitter. If you want to get on, let us know and we'll help you through the process. And so I thought, okay, I better jump in. So that's what I did. Instagram, I've bought cards on Instagram now.
I'm starting to see a little bit more of that. I'd never thought that I would see that side of things on Instagram, but it's all over now. It's amazing the things that I've found there too. It's totally caught me by surprise.
I mean, I try to be careful. I remember the first deal that I did was a lady in Quebec, I believe it was, but she knew one of my best buddies who was also an Ginla collector from Hobby Insider. And so I just connected with him and I said, hey, do you know so-and-so? And he goes, oh yeah, I've done lots of deals with her. She's top notch. Don't worry. So I went back to her and said, okay, fine. We're good to go. What's your price? And let's see what we can do.
That's great. That is definitely underrated too. I mean, you brought up a couple of really good, I think we could do a whole episode on like, maybe not etiquette, but the ways to approach a seller and build up a small connection prior to even going down the road of like, how much do you want? I feel like that's something a lot of people miss. But, well, speaking of Instagram, I have it up. I figure we can just dive right into there. I mean, this is how I met you, and I feel like we could spend a few minutes talking about this. Would you mind, once I get this up, where did Mr. GSCH come from? Is that more simple than I'm thinking about?
Okay, so my Instagram account was actually started, I think, about 8 years ago. I was in a technology group. My principal back in 2010 came to me and said, the district is starting up this new technology group. Would you consider being part of it? And I was actually quite surprised because at the time I was the second oldest teacher on staff. And I looked at her and I said, well, don't you want somebody that's a bit younger that might be around longer? And she said, no, I think you'd be perfect for it. So I'm glad she came to me because it was a great experience. But what it also taught me was you can't just talk about things to people, you have to experience it. So that's why I joined into Twitter and I went on to Instagram, used it for a couple of years. The name is the first 4 letters in my last name.
Okay.
So I was thinking at the time, I almost went with the Uhtred thing. And then I thought to myself, well, you know what? If this becomes something that maybe not the students follow because they're in grade 3, but their parents might be, do I really want the Uhtred thing as part of my school identity?
Right.
And I thought, no, you know what? I'll just keep it simple. So I went with the first 4 letters in my last name, which is actually 12 letters long.
Wow. Okay.
So that's why I did that.
I thought there was an acronym behind it or something.
No.
The Mr. I obviously, teacher, Mr. I play a couple of games on my PlayStation, and my gamer tag is Mr. Burrows 3. So I feel like it's a fun play on that whole deal. But okay, got it. Well,
the proper way to say this, because the way I say my last name is Schwetner. So it would be Mr. Sh, which doesn't make any sense when you look at the letters. But that's how
that's
pronounce our name.
Especially as a teacher, Mr. Sh.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it. Well, when you created the Instagram, the first thought, obviously, in a tech group is not, I'll put my hockey cards on there, right? Because it was being used. It was the idea to make it for using in the classroom and connecting with parents. Was that the premise going into this, or did you know you were just making one to experience using Instagram?
It was basically just to explore at first, and then shortly after that, we had things like Seesaw, which I talked to you about last night, come along, and it was such a great system for connecting with parents and getting the students involved that Instagram kind of fell to the wayside at that time.
Okay.
I didn't even reinvigorate this account until maybe a couple of years ago. Okay.
All right. Gotcha. So you've been on here about a year or longer than me. So you get on here and the idea, just like with your website, was to share it on a social media platform or social media of some kind. But can you tell me a little bit about why, and I'm just going to kind of scroll through and just give people a preview here, but what have you enjoyed about Instagram as compared to having the website? What has been couple of your better experiences so far?
Well, number one, I love the variety, the things that you'll see. There's so many different collectors out there that are collecting certain specific things or certain things. I mean, we've got 2 collectors in our group from Finland, so we get to see European stuff, which I'd never saw before, right? I love the excitement that's on there. People are excited to show their cards, and I think pretty much everybody's very respectful with their comments and things. It's a great community to be a part of. One of the things I always tell people is it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I guess one of the reasons that I really started going again on this was to get back into those older boxes of cards.
Right.
Like I said before, I started buying Pacific boxes in the late 90s. Well, they were sitting in a closet downstairs and I hadn't looked at them for a while. So when I first started, my first, well, not my first post, but shortly after, I actually used the hashtag closet cards. Because I was going into the closet, pulling a box out and just picking things at random to have fun with.
I love it. I'm seeing a ton of variety on here, like you said. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of Agilna, of course. You got some Iserman, but I mean, you got stuff like this right here. You've got, some of the older cards. If we go up here, we've got some more vintage style cards. I think we're a little bit higher here. We got some really cool, but these like older, vintage players, but more modern autographs. I mean, there's always something different on here.
That was our perfect penmanship challenge week.
Yes,
That's
it was.
Those older ones are there, not the new ones.
Well, let's talk about that too. I love that. First of all, thank you again. I guess I can say this on air. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of that. You've invited a few of us in since I first got in there, and I'm just loving the community aspect. But where did the idea for your challenges and that group's challenge come from? I mean, because a lot of times my goals, as you've seen from my page, I'm in a big flurry of collecting flurries. And so I like to be taking pictures of cards coming in and sharing some of the newer additions. But I think your goal for the challenges wasn't on those lines. It was for something else, right?
Well, again, the operative word is fun. That's first and foremost. Want to have fun with it. We're not trying to show the most expensive cards all the time or the rarest cards or anything like that. I just looked at the cards and I thought, okay, what category could some of these cards fit into? Mm-hmm. So before we actually started this group, Tim, who is a Turco collector, Turco Cards.
One of the best goalie collections I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
I mean, not that we're competing or anything, but it's pretty impressive what he's put together. I will say that.
Tim and I have known each other for over a decade from Hobby Insider.
Okay.
And he's always been somebody that I can go to when I need information about older series or sets, mm-hmm. Or like things like show cards and stuff like that. He's the guy to talk to. He knows a lot. So we were talking, this would have been late May last year. Him and I were talking and we just decided that, might be fun just to do a little challenge between the two of us here. So we started off with All-Star Game cards.
Okay.
And we did a 10-day cycle. And that ended somewhere in the first week in June there. And then at that point, him and I had been talking and we're going, well, you know what? This was fun. Maybe we should try and figure out a way to keep this going. Mm-hmm. So I had made connections with some other collectors, and that's where the hashtag comes in. So the hashtag is TimeGVB. So that's
there we go.
Yeah, there you go. So these are the collectors that first started with us. So it was Turco, Aginla, McGillney, Enroth, Gilmore, Van Beesbrook, Barrasso. I think I hit all the letters.
Yeah.
Those are mainly the ones. So there's about a half dozen of us or so that started. And the first post that I made with this group was June the 5th. But then the hashtag never appeared until the next cycle, which I think started on June 11th or something.
Okay.
So we go 5-day cycle. We start on Fridays. We end on Tuesdays. That gives us Wednesday and Thursday off to, look through our boxes and organize for the next cycle.
Right.
What I like to do, Tim again helped me create a chat group for everybody. And there's now, I think, 19 of us in this group.
Yeah. There's been about 4 or 5 that have joined. I think I was invited, and then we got Nick Manciani in there.
Yeah, Miles is in there.
Miles is in there. We got Name. I think Name was already in there prior to me being in there.
Earlier, yeah.
Name was in there, and then recently we've added a couple of others too. Everybody has such unique collections, and so we're coming from all these different places in the world. It's just awesome to have that community going, and being everybody's very encouraging to find different things, and I think the goal is to get Nick to like jumbo relic cards by the end of this week, right?
Yeah, we were giving him a hard time tonight about that.
Yeah. Nice to see you, Carlos. Thanks for joining. Yeah, absolutely. Great Madonna collection right there. My goodness. Yes. I feel like it's something amazing.
And it's interesting when you look at the members, and I didn't do a count of this, maybe I should have, but when you look at the members that are in our group, I would say 3/4 of them are player collectors.
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Coco Connie doing Cujo, and Tim, of course, with Turco, you with Flurry, me with Iginla, and well, the hashtag tells the core group right there. They were all player
Yeah.
collectors.
Right. And it is kind of interesting for me too, because I do have, times where I don't have a lot coming in and I'm taking kind of a little bit of a break, and it's lovely to go back and like look at the Tebow box like I did for the 100 cards numbered to 100. I had a lot of fun pulling all those out, and that was one of my more engaging posts. And I kind of want to end off on this note with Instagram with asking, well, I guess there's a couple questions, but the first one is of all the really nice aspects of Instagram. I think we could all name several that are like our top 5 reasons we love Instagram. What would you say is your, the top quality of Instagram for you that you like more than anything else? Every time you get on there, every time you're looking at different posts and whatnot.
I guess sense of community and engagement, along with information. Those two things together, I guess. People are so passionate about what they're doing. You'll get people that that had a mail day, and they'll be posting all the cards they got in their mail day. And I'm going to myself, you know what? This is great. We're seeing cards we might not normally see, number one, but it also shows what they're really interested in and passionate about, and they want to share with us, which I think is also awesome.
Right. Well, and I think if I can kind of springboard off that too, you were a big part of this. Is I love engaging within other people's posts with them and having a conversation. Like sometimes I just have to comment like, wow, that is an incredible card. I've never seen anything like it before. Whether it's a nice patch or a nice pattern. I mean, how often can we say that we've seen you or somebody else post a card and you go, I don't think I have one of those yet. Does Flurry have one? Or does my guy have that card? And getting inspiration from that. But it's the discussions and the back and forth you can have. There's a Pavel Bure collector out there that I had a wonderful conversation with the other day, just within a post, so just the connections that you can make on there have been my favorite part too. So I definitely get a really strong sense of community within the hockey collectors more than anywhere else. And so thanks for keeping that going. I mean, that's priority number 1 in my mind.
It's my pleasure. I mean, I really enjoy my time there, and the connections you make are so important to the hobby, not just about collecting the cards, but for me, it's about information, learning things. I'll give you an example. One of I can't remember his whole name. It's Tattoo, Mogo89 _ hockey cards _ memorabilia.
I'll pull his page up here for everybody.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, he has a phenomenal collection as well, and he shared with me his website that he's got going, and of course, again, European flavor to it as well, right? Which we don't see over here. And there'd be certain sets where I might have 3 or 4 of the cards, and he's maybe got 6 of them, and I wasn't even aware the other 2 existed. So
yeah,
that's where the information for me is priceless, right?
Right. Well, leave it to collectors. I mean, we're a passionate group of people. I think we can all agree on that. Like, we might not be super passionate about getting the dishes done or keeping the house clean all the time or remembering everything at the grocery store. But I'll tell you what, we'll learn something about cards and we won't forget it, even though we've never learned it before. And so that's another cool aspect of Instagram, is just like you said, there's always something new to learn. And as teachers, right, that's always something that I think just latch on to. And I always have this like, whoa, like I love when, Connie will post a picture of Cujo and I'm like, I've never seen that card before ever. So Tebow must not have one. Oh wait, he does. That's the first time I've ever seen a copy of one of those. Stuff like that it's like endless on Instagram, right? I feel like I always have that happen.
I'll mention one. When you were talking there, it just hit me too. Something that occurred earlier tonight. I was on Instagram, and I was going down, and I think I remember who it was, but I don't want to say their name because I'm not 100% sure.
That's okay.
They had posted a printing plate, and they said, basically they said in the comments, I was inspired by the Time GVB challenge several weeks ago with the printing plates. I didn't have
Nice.
yet, and so now I've got my first printing plate, and I'm thrilled to have one.
That's great.
Wow, that's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that.
That's fantastic. I love to hear that. Love hearing that kind of stuff. I think inspiring other collectors is something that we should aspire to do, rather than. I think I'm gonna leave it off with this. You know what? We'll get to that in the rapid fire, because you had a quote when you and I were talking. You had a quote last night when we were prepping that I feel everybody should hear. So let's, even though it ties into Instagram, let's work that into our rapid fire.
Okay.
Great. Well, thanks again. Sharing a little bit about your Instagram account. I know there's a whole lot more to unpack there, but again, I would encourage everybody to, go check out Al's Instagram, but reach out to Al. Al has always been very friendly and outgoing to me whenever I've had a question. And I know that you'd be super helpful if anybody has any questions, for sure. Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Great. Well, let's move into our rapid fire. We're going along great here. We kind of figured that we'd get into some good stories and keep her going. So again, everybody that I've interviewed so far and everybody I'm going to interview after you is going to get these questions. So I'm quite excited to hear and go back and watch everybody answer the same questions and just see how different everybody is. Or maybe the same. But first one is, again, cards. That's kind of what Instagram is about. That's how I met you. Are there any cards that you would like to share, 3 to 5 cards that you'd like to share on camera with us?
I do have some. Yeah, I set some aside.
Great. Let's see them.
Okay, so first one is from the Exquisite collection. It's Art of the Game. And the reason I picked this one is because it's actually a piece of art. It's actually a painting. It's 3 panels, and it looks to be done in oil painting.
Oh, wow. Oh, I saw that on your, wow, that is incredible.
Yeah. So this is numbered out of 3. I know where 2 of them are because one of my buddies has one of the other ones.
Okay.
And I have seen the 3rd one too. So because of COVID, we haven't actually gone to get together to compare them.
Right.
If there's any little differences or anything.
I would be curious to know that too. Maybe when you're able to do that, it would be cool to take a picture of like yours on the bottom, his on the top, and we could all take a peek at it on Instagram or even on your website where we could zoom in on it and really take a closer look.
Yeah, because they're all individual paintings, right? So there's got to be something.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second one is for many, many years, SP Game Used Authentic Fabrics was my main focus.
Okay.
I love that set. Iggy was included right up to the 8 patch over several years. So I picked out this one, which is the Olympic one. It's
look at that.
8 patch. It's a 1-of-1 card. And there's the back. So
look at that.
So the players there's Crosby, Taves, Iginla, Luongo. We've got Zach Parise, Phil Kessel, Ryan Miller, and Patrick Kane. And the extra significance to this one for me is because of the golden goal in the Olympics. This was the 10-11 series of SP Game Use.
Right.
So that ties in with that.
That was, I've heard stories about that goal and what an intense game. I mean, that's about as good a hockey as you're ever going to hope to watch, right? With everything on the line there at the end. And to see a team have to lose that game was kind of sad, especially me being the.
Well, yeah, that wouldn't be such a great memory for you, unfortunately. Sorry.
Well, but then you look at the Canada women and USA women's game. I mean, that made up for it in my mind. That shootout, that was just unbelievable to watch. So that's what you love about the Olympics, for sure.
And when I watch that video on YouTube, my favorite part of the whole video is when you can hear Sid yelling Iggy.
Yeah.
I just love that in this video.
Yeah.
It's my favorite
Called
part.
for it. That's
Yeah.
great.
This is can I get the glare off here? There we go. Okay, so this is from In the Game Used Ultimate Memorabilia. This is from the 10th edition, so 2010, 2011, and this is the 1910s card,
Unreal.
which it's numbered out of 9. Now, this has quite a story to it, though. I bought 2 boxes of In the Game Used Ultimate Memorabilia 10th edition from Bruce Findlay, who was the owner of Hobby Insider at that time. But the thing was, there was a special promotion. If you got the boxes opened at the expo, you got special redemption cards, I think they were called. And so Jeremy Lee, the Sports Card Live, Jeremy Lee, he graciously agreed to open my boxes for me at the show. Now, this card was not in those boxes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
More to the story than that.
All right.
So anyways, he sent me an email and he told me what all of the cards were except for one of them. He says, let's wait till I'm back in town and I'll show it to you because this card is very special. You're going to just flip when you see this.
You're probably thinking of all the different possibilities, right?
Yeah. So it ended up being a Tim Horton cut auto, 1 of 1.
Wow.
Okay. So at that time, I knew a guy on Hobby Insider by his name was Murray, but his handle was MTO for life. He used to buy cases of this stuff and open it. So him and I had done some deals, and my special treat to myself every year was to pick a set from Ultimate Memorabilia to build. Well, once I started doing some deals on Hobby Insider, I thought this is the one I'm going to build. But this card, there was like 4 of them I heard that were pulled at the expo, and they disappeared in a hurry. Right? They weren't around for long.
Right.
So Murray happened to buy a couple more cases after I had got most of the cards in place. And then he emailed me out of the blue and said, hey, you'll never guess what I pulled.
Oh,
and
wow.
And he was a cut auto guy. He loved cut autos. So I said, well, guess what? I've got a great card you might want to trade for this. And I told him what I had. So we worked out a deal. But in the meantime, I think he had shared it on Hobby Insider or something. He said there was 20 people in line to buy this card from him.
Wow.
Right? And so he saved it for me, and he let me. I offered to give him more than the top offer. He said, no, you know what? I'm good. We've done lots of deals. Just match the top offer, and I'm fine with that. Right?
Perfect.
And this card completed the set for me. So I got all
Dang.
the set.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I guess in 30 seconds or less, can you tell me why people who are on the fence about In the Game should consider it? I think this would be good for them to hear, especially from a guy who's built the set. Can you do that in 30 seconds or less, you think?
I'll try.
Okay, go for it.
The memorabilia that you get out of this is just stunning, for one thing. And the age of this stuff's over 100 years old. Where are you going to find that, right? So for me, I grew up, I started watching hockey in the 60s, so I can get all my old guys in series like this. So that's like the decades, when there were 6, cornerstones. There's so many sets that they did that. And that's what I love about In the Game, the sets, like the like multiplayer sets.
Right. Well, I mean, my 10-second thing is they've got the coolest goalie memorabilia cards that I've seen, like the complete packages with Tebow. There's the one with the pad, the glove, the blocker, and the jersey or a patch. I'm just like, this is amazing. Yeah. I've got to get one of these. So In the Game has totally opened my eyes. Fleury doesn't have much, but Tebow's got just a ton of stuff. So
I'll have to look through my old boxes and see if I have anything.
Oh, that would be something else. There's always a ton of this new one I see almost every week. There's this guy on eBay that lists stuff. He's got it from Canada and it's $4.99 shipping. So I know it's him. Yeah. And he always puts up a new Tebow once a week. Okay, so let's move on. We'll go a little bit quicker through these. Now you did mention this card, like about wantless and whatnot. The question is, what is one card at the top of your want list you were still chasing? I know there's always a bunch, but is there a card like that, one or two cards that are just like, I have been looking for this for 2, 3, 4, 5 years type deal that you're just waiting to show up?
Honestly, probably not. One of the reasons I say that is because I know where a lot of the top cards are that I need, and I don't
Okay.
go anywhere.
Hmm.
I've seen from the old Beckett boards, a collector used to post a lot of Iginla stuff on there. He's
Okay.
probably still got most of it. The other thing for me, I enjoy any Iginla card I can pull in, because again, I'm building these little sets. It could be base cards. Last year, I got 7 orders from ComC. I probably pulled in about 200 Iginla cards.
Love it.
So it's just discovering what I need, and I'm happy. That's it. There's no special card.
Excellent. Excellent. I love that mindset too. Appreciate the little guys is what I like to say. Like, appreciate the little cards. They need just as much love as the 101 triple patch auto type deals. So definitely with you on that. So out of all the 4 major sports in America and Canada, you've got your baseball, your basketball, your football, and your hockey. Mm-hmm. In your mind, why does hockey stand out collecting wise above the other 3 sports?
I think just because I enjoy the game so much more than the other games. Like, I'll sit and I'll watch a baseball game. I don't watch basketball. Football I enjoy too, but to me, back when I was starting to watch sports, it was one night a week. It was Saturday night, and I really looked forward to that Saturday night hockey game. That was the greatest thing for me, and I'll never forget that. So I guess that's part of it. I guess too, with the Flames being such a major part of the scene here in Calgary, although the Stampeders are too, but I just don't follow it as much. So for me, it's got to be the Flames.
Right. Well, and I've always felt too, and I don't know if you're on the same page here, but hockey, like we just talked about earlier, the hockey players themselves have this white background always, right, on the ice. And so it's so easy to frame them in the pictures, and it makes all those beautiful colors of the jerseys, and they're covered head to toe in colors rather than, basketball. So, or even baseball. So yeah, I've always felt like ever since I've been back into hockey, the players themselves stand out so much more on the cards than any other sport. And again, Flames, little shout out to Flames. I love the goalie patches with Flames cards. They are the best. Red is my favorite color. So there you go. Love it. As far as organizing, I know this could be a whole nother topic right here, but maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, every collector has their own way of organizing. Some like doing it in those white boxes. Some like doing shoe boxes, binders, a combination of everything. How would you summarize the way that you organize your whole collection?
At the start, it was all boxes. I've got those 3,200 count boxes. That was the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started separating. The thing is, like I said to you earlier, I'm not a big fan of unstacking boxes and pulling things down and stuff. So then I started taking the base cards and putting them in binders, and I really enjoyed that. So a lot of the stuff, whatever isn't memorabilia or autographed, it's in a binder. So that's the second way. And then with all the slabs I have, I've got these metal cases. I sent you some.
Yeah, I can show those real quick if you'd like.
Okay. So yeah, like I got those Canadian Tire. Back in the day, I paid like $22 for those. I got about half a dozen of them. And you can open them up, and yeah. So this one would have that. That's got a lot of in the game ultimate memorabilia cards in that one. What I love about it is the slots are already pre-cut. You
wow.
like, not in those specific, like it's all like perforated. So you can put the slots wherever you want. It doesn't have to be like that pattern.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? But it's protected, and it's a great way to put those sort of high-end cards that you like, that are special. That one is one of my Eiserman boxes. I've got some going sideways like that, and then I've got another box where they're going the other way, up and down. You can put, I think, 4 or 5 across. That one's probably not as many cards, but I think the other one's probably about 250 cards in it, slabs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you can put a lot in. It's quite heavy.
I bet.
Yeah.
Right. That's something else. Cool. And I know that's something that I noticed at the National. A lot of people carrying those big, heavy metal cases, all different sorts around, fireproof cases and stuff with their, Tom Brady's and Michael Jordan's and whatnot in it. But very cool. Very cool. Excellent. Cool. Well, I like that you kind of do a little bit of everything. I think that's a lot of collectors were starting to go, have some binders, have some boxes, have a display case, have a shelf, different things like that. When you look at your collection, wake up in the morning, have your cup of coffee, read the newspaper, whatever, come down and you're in your room where you are now. What makes you smile about your collection when you look at it?
I think the breadth of it, like one of my biggest thrills, I completed the 2005-2006 SP Game Used complete run of cards.
Wow.
Not all the other players, just a Ginla.
Right. But still, that's to get everyone is knowing how many 101s and all these other different kind of parallels. Yeah.
So I think the breadth of the experience for me, like I can go to my boxes or my cases there, and I can pull out, like a stick card. I can pull out an autograph. I can pull out jersey cards and patch cards. I think for me, I've always been a patch guy. That's my favorite. And I love, like you said, the Flames sometimes have some pretty crazy colors. You can get those 4-color patches, and sometimes the texture of the patches is so thick and fuzzy and stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's what gives me a big smile.
All right, that's great. It's making me smile because I just love the colors. I mean, I feel like all their goalies, whether Leland Irving or Mika Kiprasov, it doesn't matter who it is, the patches are just beautiful on their cards. And I can see why you like them so much, for sure. Looking forward to the rest of the year. We're pretty much smack right in the middle of the year here. What's a goal or a couple of goals that you have for, just for collecting in general, or even for your Gilna PC? What's your goals looking forward to the rest of the year?
I've got a couple. Probably first and foremost is to keep going on my Weebly site. There's still a ways to go on that, and I mean, I really enjoy spending time there, and I'll find myself, I'll set aside a couple of hours to work in there, and I'll do maybe half an hour of work, and then I find myself wandering onto other pages and just looking at things and enjoying it. Right. So I want to try and complete that as much as I can.
Okay.
The second goal would be, and this would be more on the fun side, and again, thanks to Instagram too, is 90s sets. I've started building some 90s sets and putting them together. Very inexpensive, but very shiny, very nice looking stuff.
That's right.
Like Biscuit in the Basket. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I don't think so. I mean, Jocelyn Thibault does not have a Biscuit in the Basket. Would love to see what they look like.
Okay. Well, I got my finder here.
I was kind of curious, like what sets kind of came to mind.
So this is one I just finished. This is the Topps Onyx Stadium Club.
And you posted the Leclerc there recently. I remember that was the first one on the series you posted.
Was that a die cut though, or regular?
Yeah, the die cut. You posted the Onyx die cut.
This is the regular set. Die cut I haven't finished yet.
Okay.
I've got 7 of those, I think, out of the 10.
Okay.
So here's, take a number. Again, you get the Dufex.
Ah, yes. Love it. Love it.
Gamers. And there's one for Carlos. Whoops, there we go. The green.
There he is.
Piano,
yeah.
Right? So a lot of this stuff is still at ComC. It's on its way when it comes. It's already been ordered, but it'll be a while. And then here, this one, it's tough to find them at a reasonable price, but I just love this stuff.
Oh, the gold Dufex.
Right? This stuff is just so awesome.
Love it. Love that you're collecting 90s. That's every hockey collector needs to dabble in it.
So here's Biscuit in the Basket. This is what they look like.
Oh, okay.
And they're shiny. I mean, they're in pages right now, so the shine's not showing as much.
Right.
But that's what they look like. So
I've got
most of them, but they're at ComC right now. So.
Well, before we move on to the next question, I feel like there's a set that is very underrated that you would love to collect when we're talking about Shine, and that is the Zenith Chasing the Cup. Jocelyn Thibault has one of these, and they were in the Dare to Tear cards, and they are just beautiful. They got a big Stanley Cup in on one of the sides, and there's a big shot, like a full player shot in there. And the Thibault took me a while to find. I did get that on ComC, but I feel like they're not very expensive. You would have a lot of fun building that set at some point. So there's one to keep your eye on.
Send me a picture on Instagram, okay?
I will tag you in the one I posted of Thibault just so you can have a little look. But yeah, that would be a fun one. But love that you're doing the 90s stuff for sure. And Carlos, you nailed it. Love the Dufex, man. Always love the Dufex.
No, and I'm sorry if I'm not responding. I don't see a chat on the side.
No, so when I'm hosting these, for some reason, sometimes you can see the chat. Like if you go to comments instead of private chat on your thing there, you can see them.
Oh,
yeah.
I never thought of that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And then Paul knew the Saturday Night Hockey Night in Canada, followed by Tommy Hunter. Yep. Awesome. Okay.
So everybody out there, I'm sorry I haven't said anything or responded because I didn't see it.
No, normally when I'm doing these, I will throw up ones that kind of tie into what we're talking about. Sometimes there's just a side conversation going. Name came in here and wanted to say he won't do any spoilers, so I much appreciate that. Okay. Thank you. Well, I want to rephrase this question because when I first did the question, are there any regrets hobby-wise for you? I asked it differently to Aaron, and I loved the conversation starter that happened from that. And instead of saying, are there any regrets, I would say, is there any advice that you have for collectors, even collectors like Carlos, myself, not to say us specifically, but people that have been collecting that long? Do you have any advice for collectors, especially people getting on the Instagram and whatnot? I felt like you shared some really profound statements last night that I'd love for people to hear.
Well, thanks. Yeah. First and foremost, treat everybody with respect, right? That should go without saying, but I guess that's one of the keys, right? But for me, it's about making connections in the hobby. I love connecting with other collectors and seeing what they've got and just talking hockey cards with them. Some of the best cards in my collection have come from even local contacts. Like 2 of the Shield cards that I've got from the Cup came from a guy that I met at trading night at Maple Leaf Sports.
That's awesome.
Right? And that's the other thing. Maple Leaf Sports is one of there's 3 local stores here. There's them, there's East Ridge, and there's Andy's. But back around, I'm going to say about 2004, 2005, I heard about it and I started going to these. And, I was kind of hesitant because you wouldn't know it, but I'm basically kind of a private guy and I don't like crowds and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I thought, you know what? I got to go out and I should start connecting with people. And I was sure glad I did. Boy, I made some great friends that way. So that's one of the things I would say, make connections any way you can and try to help each other out. That's the other thing. I mean, I've known several Ginla collectors, big collectors too. And we help each other out. We talk to each other, we trade back and forth, we sell things to each other. It's not about, I've got more cards than you do, haha, type of thing. No, that's not the way to go.
Can I follow up on that before you go to the next point? I do want to ask this question. There's a lot of popular players out there. Jarome Iginla, obviously, but you've got, Mike Modano and Marc-Andre Fleury. You've got Nathan MacKinnon. You've got Connor McDavid. I mean, you've got these player collectors out there that collect the same players. Right. And I have noticed at times, a lot of them are very friendly, but sometimes there's like this underlying competition. So how did you, along with all these other Iginla collectors, how have you established like that's not the priority? Let's be here to like, oh, you want this card and you want this card. Let's see if we can help each other find these. I mean, how did you make that work?
Well, I think first and foremost, we respect each other as Iginla collectors. We all have the same passion for those cards. So, when I first started I won't mention names here, but when I first started with some of the other guys that collect Iginla cards, just because I had more than them, I said to them, hey, I've got no more right to these cards than you. So, feel free. I'm not telling you that I'm building this set and I really need this card and please step away. No, I'm not going to do that.
Mhm.
The other thing, and I think I had forgotten what you mentioned earlier about that phrase from last night. My mantra in all this is it's a celebration, not a competition.
Right.
So we're celebrating together. We're working together to show again the cards and to develop information and background about all the different things that we can find.
Right. No, I love that. I think if people approach the hobby with those different points that you just spoke about for a few minutes in mind, I think their collections and their experience would be enhanced even further. That's just how I see it. And I don't know about you, but I find myself to be just as excited when a friend of mine posts a card that I know they've been looking for a while.
Mm-hmm.
When Aaron posted a card that he'd been looking for of Enroth, he's like, I finally found this one, but I found 19 of them. I mean, you could just tell how excited he was to have finally found that, golden nugget that's been hidden for so long. And so those are just as exciting. And I think that can be lost, especially with the craze of the hobby right now and how much money seems to be tied to it. It's easy to lose focus of those things, but I'm really glad that you bring those points up. I think more people need to hear it.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, this may sound crazy, but for me, it's not about investment, right? This for me is enjoyment. I'm going to be keeping these long term. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But and I don't know what else I can say about it, but it's just something that I really, really enjoy, and I'm so glad that I've taken this journey.
Great. Love it. Well, to cap things off here, if you could look back on this interview, your experience being able to tell your story. I know there's a lot more to tell. It's kind of hard to tell a collecting story of somebody who's been collecting for as long as you have. But if you could summarize our interview together in one word, what word would you use?
Retrospective.
Like it.
Because it's reflecting back on the journey you've taken and maybe not analyzing in the strictest form, but just looking at all the different pathways and nuances of where you've been and where you're going.
Love it. Well, Al, it's been a pleasure having you on here. It's definitely, you were one of the first people that I thought of just because, I can't help it. The teacher connection. I could just we could sit here and talk, teaching, because we both teach the same grade, or you taught the same grade as I do now. Yeah. But just because I knew there were a lot of stories to hear, and you were somebody who had a deep connection with the player that you collect, and just your collection in general, and some of the stories of your connections that you've made throughout the hobby and how you continue to bring us together. And so I do want to say, on behalf of all of us in the group, thanks for doing that. Thanks for continuing to inspire people to come together.
It's been a real pleasure to talk with you and to share all this tonight. And you know what? Onwards and upwards with the group, right?
That's right. Let's keep it going that way. For sure. Well, to everybody that made it to the chat, Carlos, thanks again for stopping by. I really appreciate it. We had Paul in here, Beansball Card Blog. He stopped by. He's been a great promoter of the channel. Name was here. Who else did we have? I think we had, I feel like there was one more here. Paul, of course. Paul was here too. So thank you to everybody that stopped in, said hello, and to everybody that watched this on the replay. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And we'd love to hear from you at some point. So I hope everybody has a great night. I'm excited to go watch the rest of the game, Knights. And I guess
we are ready to go.
I'm just going to end on this note right here. What does your heart tell you? Which two teams will be in the Cup final? Just off the top of your head. Who are you going to say?
I'm going to put Vegas there. Although, if you'd asked me 4 games ago, I would have said Colorado.
They look good then, yeah.
Vegas is going to do it.
Okay.
I love my Habs, but if Price keeps standing on his head, I think they can get there. But the Islanders have really been playing well too. So
Last year they looked great too, didn't they? So
Yeah, I'm going to say Islanders in Vegas.
okay. Well, we shall see, as my dad says, and I'm excited to watch some playoff hockey here. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you, Al.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Matt.